Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm Clayton, and this is Colleen. We're here from Camp Menesetung. We are a nonprofit United Church summer camp located on the shore of Lake Huron, just north of Goderich, Ontario. And today we're here to tell you a bit about some of the changes that we've had to make over this past year in these tumultuous months that have caused us to really rethink and reimagine how summer camp works and how we can continue to make a difference in the lives of our campers and their families. As I'm sure all of our listeners know, summer camp is such an important part of the United Church. And we are the place that we really can see, at least from my biased perspective, I can really see the change from these campers as they come to camp. They have this week, this slice of their summer with us. And what we can see is their growth towards independence. And what I really would focus on for Menesetung in particular, we're a camp that really focuses on that relationship building, on the community building, on making sure that we can negotiate conflict in a healthy way. And we've become a place where our campers feel safe. So we've become that sanctuary, that playground where campers can come and feel like it's okay to be me. They're gonna celebrate who I am here. And this is a place that has a lot of heart. So I'm really excited about who we are as Camp Menesetung. And when we started to see, oh no, COVID-19 is going to really impact the summer camp industry this year, we started to become concerned about how we'd be able to navigate that challenge of having the restrictions of not being able to gather people at a place that is exclusively about gathering people together. That is what summer camp does really well, is bring people together in a healthy way that's really constructive. And so when we started to see that was coming, we had to rethink how we were going to do camp. We had a few options about what we could do. There are camps who have decided to close and just say, sorry, we'll see you next year. There are camps who have just focused on maintenance projects, which we are doing a bit as well this year. But we've decided to totally take a route that was unexpected for us. If you had asked me last year that we would have a lot of our camp online this year, I would have been perplexed. So we've made that journey, and we're happy to see how it's grown. And I'm going to pass it over to Colleen to tell us a bit about how we got there.
Yeah, so when we were moving into the space of deciding on virtual camp, we were also thinking a lot about what we had decided on as our goals for this summer, for how we would live into camp and what experience we would provide for camp. And our decision was to focus on inclusion and relationship, and really looking at Menesetung and saying, listen, the heart of our camp is the relationships that are built between campers, and then also between counselors and campers, and then counselors and counselors. So we knew we had to keep that going somehow. And we started playing with a whole bunch of ideas. We talked about live streaming stuff. We talked about doing social media projects and all that kind of thing. And we also started to play with Zoom a little bit. And I think Clayton and I were both involved in a lot of Zoom stuff. I was doing Zoom conferences for another position, and Clayton, being a teacher, was doing a lot of Zoom teaching. So we were pretty familiar with that as a concept. So we decided, you know what, we're going to test this out. We're going to throw it out there in the spring. We're going to do this thing called Club Menesetung Connected, and we're just going to try and run a weekly program online in the spring to get campers interested in connecting with us online, and to test out what the possibilities of online was. And we ran that for 7 weeks, and it was, we would run 2 or 3 things a day, I think.
Yeah.
We were running a lot of stuff. We were running Zoom programs. We had a bunch of counselors that came up with like a comic strip based on some of the touchstone moments at camp. We had daily challenges that campers and staff were participating in. We did pre-recorded videos that were kind of a YouTube tutorial style, but also just an entertainment style. And what was really cool to see was that our alumni community, so former staff, were so incredibly excited to jump in and volunteer for this. And they committed hours of their time. And I think in some ways, that's a piece that comes because they weren't really doing a lot of other things. But what's really cool about that is we were creating community and relationship for our young adult staff or former young adult staff, while at the same time doing that kind of community piece for children as well. And I think what we discovered was the staff piece was just as valuable, if not sometimes more valuable in terms of connection than even providing something for the children, because children were involved in school and online school, and a lot of our staff didn't really have much going on in the wake of COVID-19, and they really needed a connection point and a piece of familiarity and home and this knowledge that they were among people that they trusted and that they felt challenged by and encouraged by. So we decided to carry it into the summer and go lean in even harder. So we have a full week planned. So we have several weeks, but we do programming. We assign campers to cabins where they get to hang out for Zoom chats. We learned that the open hangout time was actually the most exciting thing for campers. They didn't care as much about the program stuff. Like, we do program stuff and we still will do program stuff, but they were so into, listen, we're just opening up a Zoom room for an hour, come hang out, we'll chat, we'll see what people want to do, we'll maybe play a game or two if that's what strikes the mood. And it showed us, I think, or validated for us, I guess, this idea that relationship really is the reason that campers and staff are at camp. And I find that really special and intriguing because my own personal theology is built deeply in this idea of if we see God as Trinity, as like God, Jesus, and Holy Spirit, they're always in relationship with each other. And therefore, we need to be in relationship with each other in order to really live out this sense of God and this call of God. So merely doing the relationship piece really is a deep spiritual commitment for us and for our campers and staff. So that's been really, really cool. The things that we found, as I said, most successful with that open time, but we've also done some campfires, and we really thought that campfires were not going to be a thing we could do this summer because, let's be honest, sitting on a screen and looking at a campfire doesn't seem like it would be as exciting as actually gathering around a campfire. But as it turns out, it is probably the most fun thing we do online. We've learned to adapt campfire skits to online skits. I've had a banana smushed in my hair for a banana misunderstanding, which we did as like a Zoom connection issue, which was really funny. We also did a skit where the Zoom connection was so clear that we could pass things back and forth between our Zoom cameras. So we would pass a small thing into the camera and a larger thing would come out. And we did that a few times. And then the other person on one end sneezed and I got a bucket of water on my head, as thrown by the executive director. So that's been really great, and campers absolutely love it. And I think we've gotten to a point where we understand what the lag is and which songs work best. Repeat after me is the way to go if you're doing a Zoom song where people are unmuted and singing. And it's just been a lot of fun, and the campers really, really love it. We've run a week of camp, and they were super, super excited about it. They said they loved it, that they would love to come back, and I think that makes us really excited. That being said, with school having been online for several months, we're not seeing as many campers as we would have liked. We're not sure if that's something that we'll see change come late July and into August. But we wanted to be running camp this week, but we didn't have that much in the way of registration. So we ended up pushing the theme to later in the summer. But that gave us a chance to kind of pivot and innovate again, because we decided, you know what, we love this the theme was beyond the board, and it was about board games. And we were like, we love this so much. And our staff had programmed it and our volunteers had programmed it and they had great ideas. And we said, listen, what if we try it again later in the summer, but we're going to open it up to 16 plus for anybody, alumni, community members, United Church members. So, come join us. Partners, anybody that wants to have a summer camp experience from their home, we're going to run that experience online from August 4th till 7th. And we'll see what happens with that. We've never run an adult based camp. We've never run a camp that is focused on adults. But from what we've learned with our staff, having really found that connection piece to be important, is that if we give them the opportunity, chances are adults who've had really amazing camp experiences will say, yes, we do want that connection again. So we're really excited to see what happens. And we also just generally hope as many people will join us as possible. So everybody who wants to come can come. So that's been a lot of our journey, but I think, Clayton, you want to talk a bit about Pinecrest.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
So something I've been really inspired by is that now that we have this format where geography is no longer your barrier from making a connection with others over this in the community setting, we've been able to access campers that we would not normally be able to access. So we have a partnership. It's been a long-standing partnership with Hemophilia Ontario, where we run summer camps that are specifically for kids with bleeding disorders and their friends and family. And this past week, we ran a camp for them along with their help. They have education sessions from their hemophilia nurses, etc. And what we were able to do, because summer camps in Nova Scotia and across the country were also canceled, we ended up being able to partner with some of the other hemophilia organizations. And we had 35 campers from Ontario and Nova Scotia who all have bleeding disorders be able to come together, meet a couple times a day throughout the week. And we were able to really create that connection that they would not normally be able to have. So that was a really inspiring way of looking at what is possible in this new way of thinking about what is camp at home. And that's been one of the pluses for me, for sure, when looking at this.
And I think for our staff, it was the first time they really felt a part of the Pinecrest experience.
Yeah.
And that partnership's been 20 years. So it was really neat to see how quickly that bond happened. And we're really lucky. The staff got on so well that it's possible that they'll come visit to do some help cleaning around camp at a social distance. And we'll get a chance to get to know them even a little bit better. So it's cool how we've actually created deeper connections in some ways because of this time, which has been really neat. So we've been learning a ton. And I think one of the things that we've been thinking about now is what this looks like after the summer. Because spring was so successful, because we've had some great moments already this summer, we've started to look towards how do we carry this into the fall? And is there a need for us to carry it into the fall? And that's always kind of been a push for us, is how do we carry camp into the fall? And I think perhaps this is our first step forward for that. So we're looking at trying to figure out the best ways to do that. And of course, funding is always a thing. So we're looking at different funding sources and granting sources and all of that. But I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I would say without question, while this season for summer camps has been quite difficult financially, most summer camps have lost the vast majority of their income because our summer season is our season where we're able to make up for the year-round expenses. But regardless, I can certainly say that the changes that we have made these past few months are going to be able to continue to be positive throughout the rest of Menesetung's history. We created a new website. We've learned new ways of connecting with our team from home, which is in itself, well, this is what most workplaces are learning these days, about how do you navigate effectively as an efficient organization with people who aren't at camp yet. And that's something that we do. We usually do our hiring in February, and we have these few months before they actually arrive for their first training in May. Is there a way that we can use that to make sure that our team comes even stronger in the summer? So there are benefits.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's been really neat is creating these connections with ecumenical partners as well. So that we have several camps right around us. And I think this is the first year that there's been a consistent relationship that's being built between our camps, regardless of which denomination they're from. So that's really positive. And it's been kind of incredible to see those positive pieces. One of our former staff who worked with our campers with special needs is developing an entire guidebook manual on how to be the most effective one-to-one counselor possible, and and looking at our training and all of those things, and we just wouldn't have the time or opportunity to do that otherwise. So there's been some blessings in it, and it's giving us a chance to really think about the future and really think about innovating and what we want to do next. But it's still weird to not have children here.
Definitely.
We're sitting in an empty dining hall at 125. Like it's usually there would be so much noise right now because we'd be cleaning up from a bustling lunch.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't be able to hear us over the sound of the kitchen cleaning crew at work.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit sad, but it's also a challenge for us to focus on the positives of it.
Yeah.
And there's been many.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We look forward to having our kids back next summer. And
very much.
And we're also grateful that we can keep a bit of that connection going for this summer.